You know, there are some topics about our bodies that, well, maybe don't get discussed as much as they should. Still a bit mysterious sometimes.
Absolutely.
Today, we're going to get into one of those, female ejaculation. Our main source here is the book The Art of Female Ejaculation by Lisa S. Longhofer.
Right, and Longhofer's goal seems to be providing really empowering information.
Yeah, affirming that this is actually a natural, normal thing. So today, we'll unpack what the book says, try to clear up some common questions, maybe some misconceptions too.
It's a good goal because there is a lot of uncertainty out there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Questions like, is this real or am I weird? Longhofer really tackles that head on.
Okay, so let's start right there. What exactly is female ejaculation, according to this book? Longhofer actually mentions two different kinds of fluids involved in sexual response.
Exactly. She goes into the characteristics, what they might look like, taste like, smell like. But she also stresses that these things can change.
They're not fixed.
No, different factors can influence them, diet, hydration, hormones probably.
And the big question, how much liquid are we talking about? It's not always like a huge gush, is it?
Not necessarily, no. The book says it can range quite a bit. Sometimes it's just a seepage. Other times more noticeable. She even mentions an anecdote about up to 2 cups.
Wow, 2 cups. That's quite a range. From hardly noticeable to that much.
It really shows the variation. And it's not just about how much, but also how often.
Ah, right. What does the book say about frequency?
Longhofer kind of compares it to male ejaculation frequency, suggesting things like age, physical fitness, and importantly, inhibitions can play a role.
Inhibitions. We'll definitely come back to those. But first, the mechanics. Where does the liquid actually come from? This is key, right?
Super key. The book states it comes out through the urethra.
Okay, so right away you can see why people might think it's urine.
Exactly. That's the most common misconception. But Longhofer distinguishes between the paraurethral glands, sometimes called Skene's glands. They're sort of around the urethra and the bladder itself.
So the glands are the likely source.
That's what the research points to. The book mentions studies showing the fluid is alkaline, not acidic like urine usually is, and that pretty much all women produce some amount, even if it's tiny.
So back to that worry people might have, is there urine in it? What's Longhofer's take?
Her perspective seems to be, focus on the pleasure. The release itself is the important part, not getting overly analytical about the exact composition.
That's refreshing.
Yeah, and she makes a good point comparing it to semen historically. There wasn't the same obsessive focus on analyzing every single component of male ejaculate. It's about giving female physiology the same level of serious study.
Okay, moving into chapter 2 in the book, myths. This is a big one. The number one myth, she says, is simply, it does not exist.
It's kind of staggering, isn't it? Especially when you look at the history.
Exactly. Longhofer points out that people like Aristotle, Galen, de Graaf, they were writing about this centuries ago, 2nd century even.
So it's not new. It's just been ignored or suppressed.
Seems like it. The book also mentions more recent history, like the 1976 book, The G-Spot, and how women then were describing ejaculation but felt confused, even ashamed, because there was no information.
And that lack of understanding wasn't harmless. Longhofer talks about unnecessary surgeries, therapy people didn't need, relationship problems, all because of misinformation.
Then you had Perry and Whipple in 1980 comparing the fluid to male prostate fluid, which was a step forward.
Right, scientifically validating it.
But then, just a year later, the book mentions a Newsweek article claiming only men ejaculate. Talk about 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
It really shows how persistent these myths can be. The book credits the 1982 publication The G-Spot by Dell for helping bring it more into the mainstream conversation.
Okay, another myth. Only women with G-spots can do it.
Longhofer shoots that down. She says all women have G-spots, though may be harder to find when not aroused.
And here's something that surprised me. Orgasm isn't always necessary for ejaculation to happen.
Yeah, that's a big one. Challenges a lot of assumptions.
And another assumption challenged. That gynecologists are all experts on this.
Apparently not always the case. The book claims many aren't well educated on it because, well, traditional medical training didn't cover it sufficiently, maybe still doesn't.
Wow. She even includes anecdotes of doctors dismissing it.
Yes, calling it a myth or saying it's incredibly rare. It does make you wonder about gaps in medical education regarding female sexuality.
Definitely. Then there's the myth about the amount that only a drop or two is real ejaculate and anything more must be urine.
Which the book refutes again, citing the research showing it's distinct from urine.
And this ties into another harmful myth. that it is or leads to urinary incontinence.
which Longhofer argues strongly against, pointing out how this misunderstanding can lead to, again, unnecessary medical interventions.
Yeah, it's really concerning.
It is. She does note an interesting observation. Though women who've had kids might recognize the feeling more easily because they know the bearing down sensation.
But it's not exclusive to mothers.
Absolutely not. And finally, the myth that G-spot stimulation is the only way. Longhofer says, nope, other types of stimulation can work too.
So a whole chapter basically dedicated to clearing the air, dismantling these persistent myths.
Which is crucial groundwork, really.
Okay, so what about challenges? For women who don't ejaculate, the book mentions things like pressure from partners.
Yeah, feeling inadequate, confused, it can be tough.
And Longhofer gets into the psychological side too, the inhibitors. What kind of things?
Quite a list, actually. Feeling it's dirty or unnatural, body image issues like worrying about making a mess, fear of not being able to do it, performance anxiety.
Performance anxiety around this specifically.
Yeah, or guilt about pleasure, worrying about taboos, feeling the fluid itself is like gross. Or again, that fear of inadequacy, even associating it only with porn.
It really shows how tangled up our minds and bodies can be with sex, doesn't it?
Totally. And it's not just psychological. She lists physical inhibitors too. Things like nerve damage, maybe from a hysterectomy or C-section, poor blood flow, pelvic inflammatory disease, cervical sensitivity, even constipation, apparently.
Constipation, huh?
Yeah, or scar tissue from episiotomies, yeast infections, herpes sores, any kind of cuts or cysts. Basically anything physical that could interfere or cause pain down there.
Makes sense. The book also talks about difficulty orgasming with a partner.
Right, distinguishing between mental causes, maybe fear or anger from past trauma, feeling objectified, and physical ones like anatomy not quite matching up, lack of chemistry, bad technique, or conditions like vaginismus or vulvodynia.
But she also points out that not orgasming during intercourse is common, right? It's not automatically a dysfunction.
Exactly. That's an important clarification she makes.
So after outlining challenges, does the book offer solutions?
It does. It mentions some helpful solutions, including a few over-the-counter products.
Like?
Kama Creme, described as a sexual enhancement lubricant, and Her Turn, which is a supplement.
A supplement. What's in it?
Things like L-arginine, L-histidine, progesterone, Damiana leaf, pregnenolone, black cohosh, menthol. Ingredients often linked to blood flow, hormones, sensation.
Interesting. Any others?
Stamina RX for women is mentioned too. The idea there seems to be targeting desire and arousal via neurotransmitters like dopamine, enhancing orgasm through oxytocin, and increasing sensitivity with better blood flow.
So various approaches trying to boost natural processes.
Pretty much. The book also briefly mentions online stores like Adam and Eve and GameLink for buying aids.
But it's not just about products, right? What about relationship dynamics?
Definitely. Longhofer points out that intimacy issues can be a huge block, like having a partner who's thoughtless or clumsy or feeling unsafe or not close, or maybe focusing too much on the partner's pleasure and forgetting your own.
Okay, that leads us nicely into the how-to part, achieving it. What does Longhofer suggest?
First off, she emphasizes there's no single right way, and frequency varies a lot. Then she gives some pretty detailed steps for self-stimulation.
Or exploring on your own. Makes sense. What are the key points?
Create a relaxing vibe. Candles, scents, whatever works for you. Empty your bladder and bowels first. Take time for foreplay with yourself. Don't rush.
Basic practical stuff first.
Yeah. Wash hands. Trim nails, important for internal stimulation. Use lots of lube. She even suggests warming it slightly.
Okay, then what?
Start with clitoral stimulation to build arousal. Then, focus pressure and massage on the G-spot area, the paraurethral glands.
Combining them.
Yes, combining clitoral and G-spot stimulation seems key. Pay attention to that sensation that might feel like you need to pee. That can be a cue.
And then push?
Gently push or bear down around climax, or even without a full orgasm. But the mindset is crucial. Stay positive, be patient, no pressure. It takes practice.
Pleasure is the goal, ejaculation or not.
Exactly. Have a drink handy, you might get thirsty. And know you can continue other sexual activity afterwards if you want.
What about with a partner? Any advantages?
The book suggests a partner can provide encouragement, help you reach that climax point. The steps are similar, really.
Relaxing atmosphere, time, lube.
Right. Awakening arousal all over, clitoral stim, then G-spot stim she mentions about 2 to 4 inches inside, top wall. Finger play, using an index finger, that rhythmic come-hither motion can be effective.
And communication must be huge here.
Absolutely essential. The woman needs to guide her partner, say what feels good, what doesn't. Clear communication is paramount.
Beyond the techniques, what other factors does the book bring up?
Mindset comes up again. A woman's beliefs about her own sexuality are presented as really powerful.
Like those psychological inhibitors we mentioned.
Exactly. Longhofer encourages examining limiting beliefs. She even adds a kind of spiritual angle, honoring your soul, seeing healthy sex as part of evolution, pushing back against ideas that sex is inherently bad or immoral.
What about physical responsiveness issues, if the techniques aren't working?
She suggests consulting an open-minded gynecologist first off, then explores things like acupuncture.
Acupuncture, how does that relate?
It's explained through the concept of qi, or energy flow. The idea is acupuncture might help balance this energy, potentially impacting immunity, endorphins, neurotransmitters, circulation, things that could influence sexual response.
Interesting. Any other alternatives?
Massage is mentioned not just for relaxation, but reported benefits for sleep, circulation, joint health, and specifically sensual massage for enhancing intimacy.
Makes sense. And general health stuff.
Yeah, basic exercise and a balanced diet get a mention, good for overall health, which usually helps sex drive too.
The book also touches on weight loss drugs.
It does, and the author shares a personal anecdote about using amphetamines short term, but there's a very, very strong caution attached.
Okay, important caveat.
Absolutely. Consult a doctor, monitor blood pressure, avoid dangerous stuff like ephedra was.
The book mentions an online pharmacy source, but again, framed as information from the source, not a direct endorsement from us.
Right. What else in the physical side? Avoiding UTIs, urinary tract infections. Drink water, pee before and after urethral stimulation. Good hygiene. Basic but important. And a warning if G-spot stimulation causes pain.
Good point. Stop if it hurts. The book also includes stories.
Yeah, erotic stories from real couples, names changed of course,
Yeah.
describing their experiences with female ejaculation. Titles like Erotic Revolution, Vaginal Waterfall.
Sounds like they're meant to normalize it, provide examples.
Exactly. Give relatable glimpses into what it can be like.
Okay, and then there's a section on frequently asked questions, right? What comes up?
Is it normal? The book gives a resounding yes. Absolutely natural. Any woman is potentially capable.
What about intensity compared to non-ejaculatory orgasms?
Often described as having an added bonus sensation, that feeling of release.
Concerns about messiness.
Longhofer takes an empowering stance here. Embrace your body and its fluids.
What advice for women who are struggling to ejaculate? Anything new in the Q&A?
It mostly reiterates earlier points. Empty bladder, maybe try alone first. Combine clit and G-spot stim. Suggest toys like vibrators might help. Push bear down gently. Allow time. Relax. Don't get discouraged.
Practice and patience.
Right. And she adds, you might not always feel that got a pee urge but can still ejaculate, or maybe just haven't quite located your G-spot effectively yet.
And reminders about UTI prevention, trimming nails, using lube.
Yes, and again, communication with a partner, exploring different techniques together.
The book also briefly mentions penis size.
Yeah, acknowledging it can affect sex for both partners and touching on male insecurities around it. It mentions potential for improvement in resources, but doesn't go into detail.
And some basic anatomy.
A vagina facts section highlights the diversity of vulvas and explains the parts, mons, labia, clitoris, urethra, vagina, basic info.
Safe sex gets mentioned too.
Yep, condom use, do's and don'ts, info on spermicide, non-consonal 9, even issues with condom sizing.
And a final recap of those sexual aids.
Briefly revisits Her Turn, Stamina RX for women, and also mentions male aids like Stamina RX for men and Viagra, explaining briefly how Viagra works and common questions about it.
Okay, so wrapping this all up. After diving into the art of female ejaculation, the big takeaway seems to be that female ejaculation is very real, very natural, but also complicated.
Definitely multifaceted. It's got this long history, yet it's been plagued by misunderstanding and myths that still linger.
What seems most crucial, based on the book, is open communication.
Absolutely. That, plus self-exploration, really getting to know your own body and fostering a positive, accepting mindset about your sexuality. Longhofer really pushes for a less stigmatized, more empowered view.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
Which leads us to a final thought for everyone listening. Considering how much information about female sexuality has been overlooked or even suppressed historically, what other aspects of our bodies, our pleasure, might we still be just beginning to uncover and understand more fully? Something to think about. We hope you'll keep exploring, keep learning.